Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today, or this week, I'm going to be doing my favorite books of 2014. So what I've done is I have basically taken all of the books that I have marked as my favorite on Goodreads that I read this year, and then I narrowed the list down a little bit to my top 14 books. These are not necessarily books that were published in 2014, although some of them were. The only requirement is that I read it in 2014 and that I really liked it. The rankings can be a little bit arbitrary sometimes. Like, there isn't a significant difference between being ranked at like number 12 and being ranked at like number 10, but the ones that are ranked like number 1 are different in my love for them compared to the books that I ranked at number 14. Today I'm going to be talking about books 14 through 8, and then on Thursday I'm going to put up the second part to this video, which will have books 7 through 1. So to know my absolute number 1 book of the year, you're going to have to wait a little bit, although you probably have some idea of it if you've been paying close attention to my channel and my Twitter and BookRite and other things that I participate in. So to kick things off at number 14, I have East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I read this book in September and I was a little bit intimidated by this book at first because so many people rave about it and love it so much, and it's kind of a big book, so I was a little bit worried about whether or not I would really finish it or get into it. But then Steve from Steve Reads Books and a couple other people said that they were going to be reading this in September, so I decided to finally read this one, especially since so many of you guys told me how much you love this book. So I read it and I am now in that bandwagon with you guys. I will have a link to this review and any of the other book reviews I did for the other books on my list down in the description, so you guys can get a more detailed review of each book if you are interested in that. But basically, I just really love John Steinbeck's writing style. This is the first Steinbeck book I had read since high school when I read Of Mice and Men, and I love Of Mice and Men, but I just never picked up anything else by him. But reading this made me realize how much I really need to read the rest of the books that he has written, because they are just very well written. At number 13, I have Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley. I had never read anything by Brian Lee O'Malley, and the Scott Pilgrim series never really sounded like super appealing to me, even though I know everyone loves it. Something about it, I was just like, I don't know, it just never sounded like something to pick up. But for some reason, Seconds really sounded like I would like it. I don't know if it's just because there's a female protagonist, and it's also a female protagonist going through her 20s and trying to figure life out, which I could very much relate to, but I really love this. I love the style of art in this book. I love the magical elements that are intertwined in the book. I love the fact that the main character is really flawed, and I feel like this is a really good graphic novel, especially if you don't normally read a lot of graphic novels. Now at number 12, I have The Book of Unknown Americans by Cristina Henriquez. I picked this up because it was getting a lot of really positive buzz, and then I found out that Cristina Henriquez was coming to Chicago for the Printers Row Lit Fest. So I read this book and I really enjoyed it. I like how it follows the Hispanic immigrant experience in America without focusing specifically on Mexican Americans. I like that it shows the differences between different Hispanic groups depending on what country they come from. I like how it shows the real struggles that they have to deal with and that they have to face on a regular basis. And I also like how it highlights just a wide cast of characters. I'm someone that loves immigrant stories, and I love reading about how different cultures sort of deal with the culture shock, I suppose, that comes with coming to America. And this book definitely has all of that going for it. Next up, I have When You Reach Me by Rebecca Steed. This book really took me by surprise. This is a middle grade novel, and I am not someone who likes middle grade novels very often. I'm like super picky when it comes to children's literature that I read at this age. Not so much that I can't appreciate them, but just I usually don't find them very enjoyable. Like, I understand why you would like it if you're in middle grade, or why you would like it if you're in the age range that the book is targeted towards, but usually I'm just like meh about it because I find them rather predictable, or it's easy to see the lessons that they're showing, things like that. So I don't generally read a lot of children's literature, but a lot of people talk about this one very highly, and especially talk about this one as being good even if you are an adult. So I ended up getting this for Christmas and I read it, and it just completely took me by surprise. I enjoyed this so much more than I thought I was going to. I read this for a readathon, and I just mostly picked it up because I knew it would be a quick read, and while it was a quick read, it was also a really engaging read. Like, I was totally in to the storyline. I was totally just surprised by the turns that this book took. I think going into it relatively blind was a good thing, but oh man, this is definitely one of those books where if someone says they don't like middle grade books, I'm going to recommend this and see how they react to it, because I was just completely caught off guard by it. Next, I have A Cress by Marissa Meyer. This is the third book? Yes, the third book in the Lunar Chronicles series. The first book is Cinder, the second book is Scarlet. I really enjoyed the Lunar Chronicles. Like, Cinder was one of my favorites the year that I read that, and Scarlet I liked but I didn't love, so I figured that this would be kind of along the same lines. Like, Cinder would be the book that I fell in love with, and then every other book after that would be books that I liked but nothing could live up to Cinder. But yeah, that wasn't true with this. This is definitely my favorite book in the series now. I really liked Cress as a character. This book made me absolutely love Captain Thorne so much. Like, I was kind of indifferent towards him, but this book, I totally fell for him, and I think he might be higher ranked for me than Kai. But this made me just completely fall in love with the series in a completely different way, and made me really excited to see where it goes from here on out, because I just assumed I wouldn't like anything as much as Cinder, but now this showed me that I might actually like the rest of the books more than Cinder, which is totally fine with me. Next up, we have The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I don't think I need to say too much about this series because I feel like this is pretty highly regarded by most people, especially people who read fantasy books, but I don't read a lot of fantasy, but this book made me want to read more fantasy. I know that this is a little bit of an outlier, meaning that it's slightly more literary than other fantasy books, and maybe that's why it appealed to me, but Patrick Rothfuss's writing style in this book is just blew me away. It totally gave me Harry Potter feelings when I was reading this book. I don't know if it's just because there's magical elements to it and it also takes place at a school, so I was getting that vibe from this book. I love Quoth so much. He reminds me of like Tony Stark in the fact that he is really talented but also knows that he's really talented, and his pride and his just sort of knowledge of his own knowledge tends to get him into a lot of trouble. He thinks sometimes that he's smarter than he is, or that he knows more than he thinks he does, or knows more than the other people around him, and that can get him into trouble. I like the fact that this can be kind of like a straightforward story. Like, I think there are very archetypal characters in this book, but I think that's also really enjoyable, and I like to see how Patrick Rothfuss sort of fleshes out those characters later on in the series. But yeah, this was a really fantastic first book in the series. I really like The Wise Man's Fear too, but this one is definitely still my favorite, and I'm very, very intrigued, like everyone else, to see how this book ends whenever the last book comes out. And then finally at number 8, I have Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. This is a collection of essays all written by Roxane Gay, obviously, and they touch on a variety of topics including pop culture, feminism, obviously, race, and everything having to do with the world around us. She talks about a wide variety of subjects, including like movies and television, as well as just like her own daily life and the things that she deals with. I really, really like this book for the fact that it made me think a lot. Like, there are so many passages in here that I just wanted to talk about with other people, and it made me just think about my own beliefs and why I believe them, and just how I would possibly not agree with everything that Roxane Gay had to say, but then I would think about why I don't agree with it and see whether or not that really had any truth behind it, you know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to believe things without knowing why you believe things, and this made me think about why I actually believe the things that I believe in. I think Roxane Gay is just a really great writer, and I think her nonfiction is even stronger than her fiction writing, which is why this makes it on the list and not an Untamed State. But I'm definitely very intrigued to see what else comes out of her, because I've been enjoying everything she's written so far. So yeah, those are all of the books that I'm going to be talking about in this video. On Thursday I will be doing my top 7 books of the year, so you guys can look forward to that. If you have read any of these books and they have made it into sort of your top of 2014 list, feel free to leave a comment down below. Or if you read any of these books and you absolutely hated them, you're allowed to say that as well, so feel free to comment that down below as well. So yeah, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.